Hello and welcome to the Car Hero channel, and welcome back to our 600,000 mile Lexus bundle of joy. So in the last video we set out to total this car from the cost of purchase standpoint, and today we're going to take that to the next level. In the last video, we took the transmission out and we discovered that the rear main seal has a little bit of leaks, and we wanted to do it, so we stopped the video, we ordered some parts, we got a new drive shaft, we got a lot going on. Let's get to work and you'll see where we're at. We're gonna start with the rear main seal. We already cleaned up the plate. Here's how that looks like before and after. And then we're gonna clean this one up, and then we're gonna install the seal. So here's that before and here's that after. Let's install the seal. Let's put the sealer here, and then we'll install our rear main seal. And then I'm going to put some at the bottom. This is going to be, I decided to do this because we might have to move this car, and I don't want the oil pan to be leaking. So we're going to add oil and start to make sure this trans is good before we proceed. Hopefully it is good. Yeah, double layer it because this is the bottom, and it's going to be a little tricky to install this with the sub pan on. All right, let's do this. Let's give it the final cleanup here. I put a new O-ring there. All righty, let's see how this is going to go. Hope it doesn't give us trouble. Try to start the seal. We're going to roll the lip of the seal. We don't want that. The seal is garbage. There it goes. The seals give us trouble. There it goes. Alrighty. That didn't roll. The lip. I think we're good. Install our bolts. These bolts I won't be able to start until we tighten these. There it is. Bottom two should be good. Okay, rear main seal is on. Next, let's put our flywheel or flex plate back on, and we'll be pretty much ready to install our transmission here. So this plate is going to go on first, then the flywheel goes on, or the flex plate, however you want to call it. And if you're not sure how this goes, look at the pattern of the bolt here for the torque converter. See how I see the blue imprints here? This is where the torque converter was. The other side will just have a round thing. And this plate always goes, you see how it has a curve? The curve goes outside. That's pretty much all Toyotas. Flywheel bolts, always put thread lock, medium strength on these, because it will be a very, very bad day if this comes loose. First, if you want to fix it, got to take everything back apart. That's not a problem. But the real problem is damage. You could easily damage the engine. Basically, you have the crank wobbling like that. That's not good. Or you could damage the nose of the transmission, the case. I've actually seen that happen, and it causes catastrophic damage to things. So let's get these in. Never use red thread lock or maximum strength Even though we're doing our best here, someday this might have to come off again. So you don't want to put maximum strength here. These are kind of a weird size for a Toyota. Usually they're just regular 14s. These are 14 12 point. All right, let's run these down. We'll torque them and we're good to go. All right, let's torque these to spec. They're stretch bolts, so 49 and 90 degrees. Got Matthew holding the engine over there. Here's my first 49. And just so we wouldn't forget, we're gonna mark our bolt with a line as we go. Crisscross it. There we go. Now we're gonna do 90 degrees on the torque wrench. So this is an angle torque wrench, so you don't have to check your angle. It'll just beep when we're there. 76, almost. That's it. This is all torqued. Now we're ready to install the trans.
So I would have loved to get a brand new transmission for this car, but they don't make it anymore, not even a reman from Toyota or Lexus. But this transmission came from California, so it doesn't have any rust on it. That was one thing that I liked. It's been serviced once, filter's been replaced once. It does have 94,000 miles, which is nothing. I mean, you see the original transmission on this has 630,000 miles. It's not in the best shape, but hey, it drives the car and it moves. So if this one lasts the same, we have 500,000 miles more on this one, so that'll give us the million that we need. So installing this trans was a little tricky because my fault. I put the trans on the trans jack in a bad angle, so we couldn't really maneuver it well. We couldn't get the exact angle, and you see us here struggling. I was about to just say, let's stop, let's bring it down, let's angle it right on the trans jack, but as soon as I said that, it went. So I'm going to drop the transmission a little bit to get the harness. It just gives us a little bit of room at the top, and then some of the bolts are also difficult to get to when the trans is all the way up in the tunnel. This is a very simple transmission to pull out, actually. Usually access to the bell housing bolts is the hard part. You got a really long extension, but this one, pretty simple. Some other transmissions are really complicated, especially in trucks. They sit higher and you can't really get to them, especially the top ones. But this one, no casualties. All the bolts were intact. Everything went in. This is, after all, not a rust belt car, but still has a lot of miles. And let's go talk about the mount, and we'll be back in a bit.
Just before we put the mount, replace this mount, I'll show it to you in a bit. This is what I call the Bluetooth mount, because it's completely broken. Same with our 600,000 mile one. This is yeah, that's not connected to anything anymore. This side is still holding. On our original one, they're both gone. So we do have a new original mount. You notice this one is not a Bluetooth one. I'm old school. I like the wired stuff. Let's install our wired mount. These mounts are, by the way, extremely simple to replace until one of these bolts, if you live in rusty land, or sometimes even I was kind of nervous when we took them off. These bolts that hold the mount to the trans, they love to break and seize. And sometimes the problem with this transmission is it's an aluminum body, and aluminum and drilling is not the best idea in the planet. Okay. Well, this little bracket that holds it to the body does have an arrow, which is nice. I was just wondering, I'm like, we didn't look which direction this went. It does have an arrow. Toyota always will put, well, in this case, Lexus, will always put arrows, and most of the arrows, like in suspension stuff, will always point toward the front of the car. So let's lift this trans up into position, put it through, and we need to go higher. There we go, that's more like it. Put the rest of the bolts. All right, now we can undo our strap, pull it. Hopefully this will not be a bad idea. Yes, it will be. Should have undone this strap before we tighten it up. Okay, down we go. And that's just how this works. Could be worse. Could be worse. So let's try this just a little bit. See if I can rescue my strap. Come on, strap. Of course, this trans has. There we go. This trans has every single rib possible to make this hang up everywhere. Okay, where's our arrow? Here's our arrow. This is actually happening. Let's do this. I just hope this transmission is as good as they say it is. Like we talked about it, this transmission supposedly has 94,000 miles. Not really supposedly. I looked at the VIN number on it, checked the history of the car. It has had one transmission service and filter. So I wonder if this is the filter job that we're seeing here. Okay, well, I think now we can lower our trans jack. There it is. Now it's official. Car has a transmission again, and it's supporting itself. We only have one thing left, which is to tighten the 4 nuts that hold the mount. So on Tacomas, this one loves to break. These bolts, actually I think they're bolts. They love to break, and then you're drilling them out. Probably better off just to buy a new mount if that happens. Okay, transmission is in, and what we got left right now is to connect the lines, which I got new ones because this one twisted on us, and then connect the cable, which is not really a cable, it's like a big mechanism here. But first, I am having second thoughts about this pan. I don't like that I see wetness in the back. Could have been from the lines, could have been from transport, but I wanted to take this pan down anyways. I'm gonna just put a new one. I have it already, can't really turn it anymore, so might as well. We'll put a new filter, clean it up, just give this transmission kind of a mini once-over before we even start, and hope that helps it last longer. Let's drain this transmission, which is missing a gasket. Well, I'm putting a new drain plug anyways. This one feels horrible. Let's see if it has any fluid left in it. No, they drained it. Cool. And this already feels not very good. Somebody over-tightened this at some point because they didn't put a gasket, and they wondered why it kept leaking. New drain plug, but the problem with these pans is these bolts. They're actually one-time use bolts, and they love to break, so I'm gonna break them loose by hand. Hopefully none of them break. And for some reason, looking at the catalog, one of them is a different bolt than the rest. I have all new bolts. I think this pan will be okay because they're all coming off very easy, and that's never the case. This has been off. Perhaps they were replaced. We will hope so. I honestly wanted to drive this trans for a bit, then do this, but looking that it's leaking, I really don't want any more leaks out of the trans, because the engine leaks are not that bad, but the trans leaks is what we were dealing with. My driveway already has the map of the world on it. We don't want to make Mrs. Car Karen too upset. She already lets us get by too many things. I think at this point, we can just zip them out. We're good. What I like about these is the sealer is red sealer, which is original. It was done at a dealership. So at least whoever has been here knows what they are doing. Well, that's the hope. Usually at dealerships they don't, if you're just changing transmission fluid, they might give it to a lesser experienced tech, but if you're pulling a trans pan, especially at dealerships where that is usually not the norm, you know, Toyotas and Lexus don't have a lot of transmission problems where it's the norm. They usually do give it to a more experienced tech, so that's the hope here. Now it's the matter of breaking the seal, which even though it was leaking in the back, it might still be sealed all the way. So let's see how this goes. Let's hope we don't make a mess. This fan is probably going to get bent, which is fine. I'm replacing it anyways. I had the pan when we initially planned to salvage the other transmission, but that's not going to happen. So there it goes. It's out. Now the moment of truth. How does everything look on this pan? And take a real good look here. Well, well, well. Rule number one when you pull a trans pan, don't dump the fluid. Always look at what's floating in it. You know what? It smells like trans fluid. It's a little bit on the darker side. There's some debris on the magnets, but trans looks pretty clean. I like it. Filter strainer doesn't have much on it. You have a new filter, might as well just put a new one while we're here. But we got some smear. I just saw, here it is. Got some smear of the sealer. So the thing about transmission sealer, in case you see this, you notice that it's orange in color. It's a different sealer because transmission fluid reacts differently with the engine oil stuff. You can use it temporarily, but it's not a good idea. Just get the right sealer. We're going to clean all the surface up, clean this up really well. The fluid, for lack of a better word, it's purple. That's the color. I'm going to see it right here. So it's a little bit darker red, but that's the fluid. Let's clean this up. Let's get the filter out, and we'll continue.
And a quick note, if you're doing any type of DIYing, never use power tools to clean old sealer. Aluminum creates this very fine powder that goes everywhere. And the only places you're going to be cleaning sealer is engine and transmission, and you do not want that fine powder all over the place. Use a razor blade, then use some red Scotch-Brite pad lightly just to clean everything up, smooth it up, and that's all you need. Don't go using power tools to clean up stuff, and it's clean up or brake clean afterwards, and it's all gone.
Okay, let us remove the filter. Filter has four bolts. There we go. Not too bad. It's a very light debris, not too bad. I'm actually happy with this one. Just clean up the areas where the filter sits on. All right, let's get our new filter. This filter, unlike many Toyota filters, does not have O-rings. It has actually these little cork gaskets that they come with it, which is nice. Usually Toyota transmission filters, which are actually strainers, they're not filters per se, they don't come with the O-ring, which is it's just one more thing they want to charge you for. This filter is weird because it just doesn't have a place to sit on. It just kind of just sits there. Come on. You can do it. You can tell it's getting late in the day. I'm getting clumsy over here. Whenever you work inside of a transmission, valve body, everything, always torque everything to spec. Because one broken bolt here equals disasters. We're just gonna run it down. And these bolts are usually extremely delicate. This particular one happens to be 7 foot-pounds. Usually they're not much more than that. All right, well that's down. Now we're gonna start getting ready to install our pan here, which does have sealer. Let's give it one last wipe. This tran's been sitting for a while, and you can tell because I'm not having transmission fluid drip all over the place. So I think we're good to remove our pan for now. All right, let's put our sealer and we'll get this going. So I already got the magnets in here. Let's give this a final wipe, although this is new, but still, it's been sitting for a while. Notice it was dusty. Red sealer, very interesting sealer because it's not as malleable as the regular sealer from like oil pan one, the black one. In this one, you do not want to go liberal. You do want to be easy on the amount because then it ends up inside your transmission, and you also don't want it, even though it's compatible, but you don't want giant globs all over the place. There's one area that I didn't put enough on. Yeah, I think we're good. Let's install it. Let's give our pan one last wipe. Actually, not the pan, the trans. This was very easy. Normally, this is not as easy as this. Usually, it's dripping all over the place. You keep wiping it down, and wouldn't go. This one is cooperating. And I already see a problem. Our dipstick is bent. So we already got a tiny smear. Perhaps we should have rehearsed this slightly before we put the sealer. We might end up removing this entire sealer and starting all over because I'm not liking how this dipstick is lined up. We did have issues with it when we... Oh, there we go. I think we're good now. Yes, we are. We're good. So I got all the new bolts for this. There's one bolt that is different, and what's different about it is it has what appears to be thread lock. I'm going to install 4 bolts just to locate this. We'll snug them down and we'll hand install the rest. And then with pans like this, I highly recommend you also torque them to spec, because these bolts love to snap. And I actually already installed the wrong bolt in the wrong holes. So this bolt does not go here. The weird bolt goes in the middle hole of the rear, or the different bolt. Well, let's not call it the weird bolt. It'll get upset at us. Here is the different bolt. You notice how the thread is yellow? That's the difference. I don't see any other difference. They're exactly the same length, but it's probably some kind of thread sealer on it for whatever reason that Lexus engineers deemed necessary. There's a total of, if my memory is serving right, when we ordered this, there's 19 bolts, 18 regulars and 1 special one. So in case you're doing this yourself or something, it's not really hard. Just be gentle with these bolts, because if they break, that's what we had with the previous transmission. Especially the rear and the front ones, if they break, you have no real give, because it's the body of the transmission. You can't, like for example, drill a through hole and put a nut in the back. You can't do that with the front and rear bolts, and these are the ones that usually get left behind, like what we had with the old transmission. And that's why you have all kinds of leaks. I mean, this thing was just hemorrhaging fluid, partly because it's 630,000 miles, and partly because the drain plug was completely stripped. Speaking of drain plug, we actually have a new one. So you don't want to risk anything. Why does this one not want to go in? Let's see. Are you just getting stuck? Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. Okay, let's leave this one for last. These front ones are the scary ones. This one is good. This one is going, but I don't like how it's going. So I'm going to zip the rest down just to get them. Let's torque them down, and then we'll work on that one that doesn't want to go. So the torque here is 65 inch-pounds. We start with a special bolt. All right, that's all of them in. Let's take the one that I didn't like how it was going. Because I think what's happening here is the hole where this bolt goes in, I think that is the case, has a bunch of sealer in it. But let's try to get some of it out. I think it's like, because it's not a through hole. So, yeah, here we go. I see it. There's a whole bunch of sealer that got pushed into it. And that's why the bolt doesn't have anywhere else to go. So it kind of maxes out. And clear the threads. Let's see if it wants to go this time. At least this one. Yeah, it's going much better. Yeah. Choke it back. Be good. Yeah, see this one? Somebody over tightened it. It is turning, and that's not good. Fortunately, you can't do much about that. So we're gonna leave it the way it is and hope it doesn't leak, because there's really no way to fix this. And that's the sad part of this. You can't, once the thread is gone, whoever did this over tightened it, of course. That's usually how this happens. Let's try this one. I hope this one goes. No, I don't like how this one is going. See, this is what happens when you have what I call hammer hands work on a transmission. I can't really go through it, so what I'm going to try to do is run a tap and see if we can, because I can't run it all the way through, but I'll try to run a tap and see if I can clean up at least the beginning of this thread, and then hopefully the rest will catch. Because we already have one bolt that is a question mark. This is 6mm by 1 thread pitch. And usually when you go with a tap on aluminum, you don't want to go too aggressive because you could rip it out. And once it maxes out, stop, because this is not a through hole. Okay, I think that went in deep enough. Let's try it again with the bolt this time. Okay, moment of truth. Are you good? Nope. I don't like how this is going already. I feel like it's going sideways. Why are you shifting on me? Okay. Okay, that is good. That is good. That is really good. See if it holds the torque. There we go. Well, that's good. Unfortunately, this one, it has some torque to it, but it's not full. Let's hope it doesn't leak. We're going to keep an eye on it. But we're pretty much done here. I'm going to put the new trans lines, because one of them twisted and we had to replace it. And before we move on, actually, we do have one last thing, which is the drain plug. Very cute little drain plug with a new gasket. Not going to over tighten this much. That's it. Well, would you look at this? This is looking really nice. But there's one thing that is not really nice. I know I'm being really looking at the small details, but that's just how I am. So I noticed that whoever did the previous pan, I mean, you literally globbed the whole side of the trans with this red stuff. This red stuff, once it gets on your clothes, there's no getting it off. But I'm really happy with how this trans is turning out so far, and it's only going to get better from here. Once it runs, that's kind of the key point here. But let's connect the rest of the trans stuff, because I want to move on to the new drive shaft, which looks beautiful. You guys are going to love it. Let's get back to work.
So at this point, this looked very simple. We're kind of in the home stretch. Let's get the lines in, and of course removing the old lines that they cut when they removed this transmission. They were not fun, and that's where the first issues started. Like, okay, that's not a bad deal. Let's just get this through, and we'll install the new lines, and we'll just zip through this. That was a moment where mechanics will kind of self-sabotage and will say, oh, this is very easy, and then it turns out to be anything but easy. First, the new hoses we installed in the front earlier on in the series, they were extremely difficult to remove, and then this has started making a mess. And removing this line, which wraps right into the motor mount, right behind it, it was extremely difficult. And some of these brackets, the other brackets in the back, they were not cooperating, and the line doesn't want to come off. And then kind of the struggle started. Of course, removing these lines, I bend them a lot because it doesn't matter, we're replacing them. But installing the new lines, I don't want to bend them. So I decided to lift the engine up, just kind of remove the motor mount. You see here, lifting the engine up. That made it a lot easier to kind of put the line behind the mounts and do all this. I wish we were replacing the mounts at the same time, because we are going to replace them in the upcoming episode when we remove the pan and the subframe. That whole thing is coming down. But this was a lot harder than it looks, because wrapping this line behind the motor mount was a little difficult. But all in all, turned out great. We have these beautiful new lines. I like shiny stuff. Looks very nice underneath the car. We do have to clean this undercarriage. You notice in this video I didn't do a lot of cleaning, because this is something we're going to tackle in the detail video, which is coming up after the oil pan stuff. We're thinking of dry blasting underneath. Please do comment below if you've done this to your cars. See if you guys think this is a good thing. I've never really done it to a car. So that would be something we're considering. That's why I didn't go heavy on cleaning, like the panels we removed and whatnot. Then put the engine down. We're about to wrap this up, and I'm so excited for this drive shaft, which also gave us trouble. We'll talk about that. But this is coming together. I'm super happy with how this is turning out. This transmission, we've been waiting for this episode for a long time. We could really do it sooner, but here it is.
So after fighting the transmission lines, I have to say these were not fun. We did have a little casualty in one bracket. We're gonna get that bracket, because when we do the oil pan and the upper pan, we're gonna take that bracket out anyway, so I didn't really install the one that got sacrificed. But we stopped the video to talk about a very important announcement. This, at least in the day of filming this video, is the last available drive shaft in the world for an LS430. Don't quote me on that, that's just according to the dealership. This one came to us from Canada, and initially it was supposed to take like 2 weeks, and we were gonna, okay, let's just install the old drive shaft and we'll do that at a later time. But here it is, a very expensive drive shaft. Let us take it out. It just looks very beautiful. Dusty, but beautiful. This is a brand new drive shaft. Once I am able to somehow get the box out of the way, take a look here. So you notice something about this drive shaft which is very interesting. So if you get the flex discs, or whatever you want to call them, separate, and the center support bearing, you paid more than the entire shaft that comes with it. That is just Lexus for you. I don't know why they do things that way. This one is solid, of course, it's brand new. This joint has had play. It was literally worn. That's the way, in case you didn't see it in the previous video, I'll link that up here. But I'm super excited to install this, because it looks very nice. Let's go ahead and install it, and after that, really all we got left is install the exhaust with 2 new catalytic converters, and I think we're ready to start it and see if this transmission is good. I am gonna put oil in it. Initially we said we were not, but I'm gonna put oil in it because I need to move it around the shop until we get to doing the oil pan. So I'm gonna put transmission fluid, put oil, get it started for you this video so we can take it for a quick spin. I am really excited to see how this transmission does now with a new filter and new oil pan. Let's install this drive shaft.
So this drive shaft brought a lot of memories. I haven't installed this style drive shaft, new one, in a long time. These drive shafts actually have an adjustment for length. So when we initially tried to install it, it's too long. And that's when I remembered, wait a second, these have an adjustment. They actually have an lock nut, and you can adjust the length of them. So that took a while, but we got it. Jose was really helpful. Guys, huge shout out to Jose, not only for his awesome camera work, but for helping me with these projects when we need it, because it's just me and him at this point, working almost into midnight here.
All right, we are almost at the finish. We just have to put 2 new cats on here. Once I find the gasket, it loves to disappear on me. Here's one of the gaskets. So this cat, new gasket, Toyota possibly makes at least in my opinion, probably the best gaskets for exhaust you will ever see in many manufacturers. I've worked some other manufacturers. Their gaskets looks like aftermarket stuff, but Toyota's always used really good gaskets on their exhaust. Well, I have to say one thing right now. You know, Toyota makes a great gasket, but apparently I can't install a cat. It's getting a little too late here. We're getting a little worn out. There we go, that's much better. And then the other one, I'll install this one right the first time. How about that? There we go. That's much better. But we're almost there. Gonna put the rest of the exhaust, fill it up with fluids, and we'll see where we're at. So I am replacing both cats because if you remember what it feels like ions ago, I checked the codes and it had a code for the aftermarket cat. And then shortly after that, we developed a code for the other one. And the cats really don't look happy. I mean, one of them is original, 630,000 miles. I think served her purpose, let's put it this way. Well, let me tighten these two down and then we'll put the exhaust, see how that wells. It's just me and Jose, so before that we had Mateo as well helping us, but now it's just me and Jose, so let's hope that goes well. We'll use the transjack to lift it up, see how we get it in.
And this did not go well because lifting an old exhaust in one piece puts a lot of strain on it, and it's just me and Jose. When we removed it, it was easier, but we did have a small casualty, which we're not going to talk about a lot in this episode, but in the next episode, I'll tell you what happened and show it to you, and we'll kind of talk about that. But exhausts are tricky because you can't really separate, especially on the LS. It has like the clamp type. Very hard to separate without sacrificing one of the pipes. So we had to do it this way. We installed this bracket. This bracket actually stabilizes the exhaust. It's been missing for a while. It looks like it just rusted out and fell off. So everything's turning out good. Got the exhaust in. And we're almost ready here. I am, at this point, super tired. It's very late, but super excited at the same time that we are finally getting done with this. And I really wanted to do this a long time ago. Let's go back to the live video.
Well, folks, finally, the moment of truth. It's all back together. This was not fun. There were some parts that were not fun. But I also got this bracket that was missing that supports the exhaust. It's, it was not there, so it's important that it is there. So here's what we're going to do right now. It is approaching midnight here, so we got to move a little faster. We're going to put fluid, transmission fluid. We're going to put engine oil, and let's see if she goes. First, does the car start again? And one thing at a time. And then, does it go into drive? Then, for you guys, it'll be 2 seconds. For us, it'll be the next day. We'll take it for a quick drive, see how it does. Let's add some engine oil, because remember we drained it when we, gasket got stuck. Drained it when we did the rear main seal. Didn't want to overflow it. Let's put, technically it's just under 5 quarts. We're going to put 5 quarts because this oil is getting dumped out soon. I just need this car moving. Because when we do the oil pans, all this oil is going to get drained again. We'll call it an engine oil flush. How about that? Okay, now let's put transmission fluid, which honestly I don't even know where the dipstick for the transmission is. Somewhere in the back of the shop. Let me go find it. Here it is. Let me get a funnel for this transmission. You add this one through the dipstick. Here it is. We're going to try not to make a mess. An emphasis on the word try. ATF Type 4. This is what this transmission takes. We're going to start with 4 quarts and see where that leads us for the starts. Excuse my extremely flimsy hand because it's been a long day, let's put it this way. And this is going to take a while. All right, moment of truth. Does it start and does it drive? There's only one thing for it. Jose. has been a superstar today. Please go ahead and start the car. It runs. And it sounds like it has an exhaust leak, which is anything but comforting, but that's okay. Let me just check the trans fluid level real quick. Okay, we got trans fluid. All right, Jose, put it in drive. Let's see if she moves. Move it a little bit forward. Yes. Reverse. Move it a little bit back. I can live with that. Shut it off, Jose, so we wouldn't choke from the carbon monoxide. Folks, it lives, but we do have an exhaust leak. I'm gonna kind of off camera look into that. It is now past midnight, and me and Jose are very tired. We've been here since 9 o'clock in the morning, so for you it's gonna be 2 seconds. For us, it's gonna be the next day or possibly a few days later. We're gonna take this for a test drive to see how this trans shifts and see if we still have our problem with the torque converter not coming on. I'm hoping not, because we did some testing into it and there was solenoid that is not really doing anything, but we'll be back in a few seconds for you. So we finally get to drive the new transmission, and just sitting here for a bit while Jose sets up the camera, I can't wait to clean this car. It is, yeah, my face will say. Let's go drive the new transmission. I am really excited. Finally, no hard shifting, and torque converter hopefully is back. The exhaust leak was something we're going to talk about in the next episode. It's already fixed, but we'll talk about it in the next episode. But let's drive this transmission. And while we're driving, let's look at the Tesla graveyard. Wow, there are no Teslas. Okay, never mind. There are a few, but they're going through them. Maybe they just hit it to the side. Never mind. Anyways, back to our LS. It is worrying that I did not feel any single shifts. It's extremely smooth. Let's go down the street, and it's kind of the end of the day. The sun's coming down. This is nice. This transmission, you can't even feel it shift. Yep, there goes the shift. I always want to get to a point where we get transmission torque converter lockup. I think we just locked up. Yeah. Wow, this is so smooth. You can't even feel the lockup unless you look at the RPM. It works. No check engine light. Now, in all fairness, we have been driving this for a little bit just to make sure everything is good. It is good, and I am very happy with it. But then we developed a new problem. I don't know if you, let's hear that sound. Hear like a little whirring sound? Well, that is the boot underneath the shifter. I noticed when we moved the shifter rod to change the transmission, that bushing literally that covers the inside, it's not a bushing, it's like a little rubber plug. It just disintegrated, it fell down. So that is one more thing we're gonna do when we do the interior stuff. And speaking of the interior stuff, I am debating, maybe Jose will get you a close up. This steering wheel, I feel like it's been replaced, because if you look at the grain of the wood and then the rest of the car, it just doesn't match. These are usually matched, and this one is, yeah, it have seen better days. So I'm debating, they don't make these new anymore, so I'm debating, do we just get a used one, something in better shape? But the only thing is matching the wood, but the wood already doesn't match, so that's the last thing. Few mysteries remaining, because everything else just needs a pressure washer. Just go over everything with a pressure washer, basically. That's how it feels like. Folks, we've come a long way with this car. We do have one more oil leak to address, which we're going to address in the next episode. That will be the upper and lower oil pans. We got a few other odds and ends, kind of the last wrap up of the mechanical repairs, because everything else will be cosmetic stuff. The interior, the lights, kind of tidying everything up before we call this project complete on the repair side, and then we start our journey to 1,000,000 miles. No, that sounds very hard, but I have a few things planned. Hopefully, we have a few folks that volunteered to put some miles on this car and something excessive, and people that I trust. I can just, after all this work, hand the key to this car to whoever, and that was something that came up. But the other thing is, and it's a small confession, I love this car. It's only car folks will understand the relationship between a car and a person. And this car has grown so much on me, and we really went all out with it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to give it away to put miles on it. I really just love this thing, and yeah, it's going to be tough to just hand the keys over to somebody, even though I trust them, to put miles on it. We'll see. We'll see. How about that? We'll see. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Transmission shifts perfectly fine, except that little noise we created. That's not a big deal. We'll take care of that. But things are working very well. We already checked it. No leaks. We're going to double check that in the next episode so you guys can see it as well. No leaks from the transmission. That one bolt that I couldn't really get it to tighten, we left it alone, is not leaking. So I think we're good there. Everything is working out really good. We're almost there, folks. Almost there with the mechanical repairs, except every episode we add 10 more things. So there's about 10 more things we got to do. Maybe we'll do them after the detail. But folks, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning into this project. Give us any ideas, anything you see, any suggestions, let us know. And until the next episode, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.